Guys, my name is Michael and welcome to the second GTK box tutorial. Today we are going to move on and we are going to learn functions, and for this, before we move, I'm going to show you, or better say, I'm going to create a new button. So I'm going to say button 1 and button 2, just to be sure that you see the difference. Let me close this one right here. Okay, so now I'm going to make some changes. Button 1 and of course button 2. I'm going to say start and end, and now because we have those two buttons, basically I'm going to pack them both, the button 1 and button 2, one at the start position and one at the end position, both with a false properties for filling and expanding, and also padding to 0. Let me compile it and run just to see that works fine, because it is very important for us. As you can see, we now basically packed these two buttons inside our box, and as you can see, the start means that the button with a label start goes on the left, which is its position 0, left 0, and the end goes to the right, which means that at this point the end button, it is also at the position 0, but this time on the right side. Okay, so that being said, now because we have those two buttons, we can proceed with our GTK box functions. The next thing which I'm going to introduce you, it is another function which is very important for you to understand. There is also another one which allows you to set a center widget as well, which means you can put a widget in the middle of your box and stays there wherever you make changes to the box or not. So I'm going to create a third button. I'm going to call it button 3. Its name will be center, and now because we have the third button, we can call this function. As you can see, it's a function which returns nothing, void, takes two parameters or arguments. The first is the box and the second is a widget which we want to edit, and says sets a center widget that is a child widget that will be centered with respect to the full width of the box, even if the children at their side take up a different amount of space. So you know what, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to say to create an entry here, just to be different, much different entry instead of a button. So GTK entry new, entry new it will be. And now basically I'm going to call this function. The first one is the box, so GTK box, it is the first one which we are going to pass, and the second will be our entry. Now at this point, if I'm going to compile it and run, you will see that the entry, yes, here I forgot because the button 2 should be at the end position, right, and the button 1 should be at the start position, and the entry should be in a center. Okay, now I'm going to compile it. As you can see, here is our entry. We have the start button, we have the end button. Once that we maximize the window, as you can see, the entry stays right in the middle. It looks a little bit ugly because the way it's designed, because as you can see, they are expanding on the vertical as well, but you get the idea and you see how it looks like. As you can see, both left and right spaces between the entry are equal, which means that the center widget indeed stays in the middle, at center, and that is very important for you. Now I want to also introduce you two new functions. The next function which I'm going to introduce you, it's called GTK box SetChild Packing. Basically, this is a function which let you to make those same configuration like the spec start, for example. As you can see, we have fill, expand, child, and the padding, and of course, you have the child widget, expand, fill, and padding properties which you set them, and GTK box SetChild Packing sets the way child is packed into the box. So now let's see, we decide that the button 1 should be packed with false for its expand, and for its fill also we set false, and the padding set to 0. This behavior you can change it. You just call this function, and the first one, it is the GTK box. The second one will be the child. In this case, we are going to make some changes to button 1. Now, before we were saying false and false. This time I'm going to say true, true, and also I'm going to add 10 pixels for the padding. And the last argument, which is new for you, it is the GTK pack type. It is the new value of the pack type child property. So in other words, you can decide now exactly if you make some modification on the position of the child in the box. So we have, as you can see, represent the packing location GTK box children. In other words, we have GTK pack start, which is the child is packed into the start, you already know, and end, it is a pack at the end. So basically, if I now call the start right here, and I'm going to compile it, you see no difference, only that we have this padding right here. If I'm going to maximize, as you can see, again we have this padding, and also the button fills because it is extended almost until the right side. So basically this is what does. But I want to show you something else. I'm going to set them back to false, which basically now this call right here, it is the same like this one right here. So if I compile it and run it right now, you won't see any difference, which is fine. You see, it is the same program. But now if we change the packs, we change the GTK pack start to GTK pack end, now the child gets the position 0, the button 1. As you can see, now the button 1, which is the start, goes to the right, which means goes to the end. And as you can see, now it took the position of the end. We changed not just the place where the child will be packed. We did decide also to get its position, which is the main position 0. At this point, the end, which was packed with the GTK box pack end, it loses its position at this point and goes to position 1. And now the start button, it goes to position 0. And to fix this thing, if you don't want to have this behavior, if you want to stick with the position, then you can do it in at least 2 ways. I'm going to show you both. So at this point, what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to call another function, which is called where is it? The GTK box reorder child. It says it moves a child to a new position in the list of the box children. So the list contains widgets packet to GTK pack start, as well as widgets packet to GTK pack end. So in the order that these widgets were added to box. Okay, so basically, if we call this function, we pass the GTK box, the widget, which we need to move it, and the new position of the child in the list of children of the box. So let us call this function. now because I call this function, the first one of course will be our box, GTK box, GTK box, and the second will be the child. In this case, the child which we are packing it with at position 0 before with the GTK box pack end, which were the back button 2, it was losing its position and went to position 1 because of the GTK box SetChild Packing call, where we said that button 1 should go to the end, and now this one had its new position of 0 and button 2 lost its position. We can do it, put it back. So now if we say 0 at the position right here, basically we said now like this. We call this function GTK box reorder child on the box and say watch in this side, in this box, and check the button 2 or check this widget, this child, and make sure that this child stays on the position 0 this time. So now when I'm going to compile it and run, you'll see that the end button and start button, they are switching. At this point the end button goes to the end, you see? So basically this is what this function does. It allows you to make these changes. So now you have basically end button at the position 0 and start button goes to the position 1. In other words, if you want to keep track on these things, maybe you are going to reorder this box in a callback function or something. You can create a variable, let's say gint position, and you don't need to set it to 0 because it is a global one, but I'm going to do it. Now we know that the position is 0, so that means you need all the time to update this variable with something new. And now in your callback function you can do a check, whatever, which kind of check. If position equal to 0 or whatever, you have so many things, then you can say position, which means at this point the widget in case will stay always on that position. In other words, nothing's going to change to your application when you pack a child with a GTK box SetChild Packing, when you set it to the end, because you stick with the position. And then of course you can update again and again and again, so that the next child which you updated, or you better say, sorry, the next child which you pack it inside your widget, your box, you just need to give to the position a new, or better said, you can count it to a new number, so that next time when you call the GTK box or the child with the position, now you know that you won't put it at the position 0 because this time it's a position 1, and so on. That being said, thank you guys for watching. If you like it, please subscribe, share with your friends and neighbors, and until next time, see you guys.